Yes, I'm from the world of video, and my background is that I came out of corporate television, or pardon me, I should say broadcast television first for a number of years. We did a lot of production for commercials that in the late 70s, early 80s started moving corporate video or corporate communications from slides and 16 millimeter film into video, which would be done on videotape, VHSs, and Betamax tape that you're probably all familiar with. It then moved into other formats like DVDs and thumb drives. But at the same time, also working at a station that had a satellite uplink, so we did distributions for the news feeds around the region and the sporting events that went into corporate communications. So 30 years ago, I moved into corporate America, went to work for a company that did corporate satellite networks. And jumping ahead real quickly then, what I've done for the last 20 years as an independent consultant is worked with organizations with regards to all things video as it relates to communications, corporate communications, and training and learning. And the nice thing is that it's come full cycle now to where basically everybody is using video. And we refer to it as the four screens, where you're using televisions, computers at the desktop, and then you're also using the notebooks and or the cell phones, smartphones. So the last two being mobile devices, and I've seen a number of people using their tablets and their phones here in this conference to take pictures and maybe do some videos as well. So that's what I do. I've been involved in it, and I help organizations figure out how to utilize video and develop strategies that help them get funding and let them utilize it as it works through the enterprise infrastructure.
Yeah, no, so thank you, Randy. So diving a little bit more into corporate video, I mean, going off your experience, you know, based on the various opportunities you've assisted with over the last many years, what role is corporate video serving?
Well, it's an interesting thing. The video has actually become what's considered a strategic tool these days for most organizations. Maybe some of you in this room would even say it's done that in your company. People used to say that data in the IT organization is mission critical to companies, but now it's also video that's mission critical, and that's because from the executives, the CEOs and C-level executives all the way down, everyone is using it as a means to reach the millennials or other people who have it. So by default, companies and organizations have to be able to utilize video for their employees in the same way that they use it personally as consumers. So as far as HR goes, and a lot of you probably have the training organizations or learning organizations under you, you've probably seen an increase, maybe a significant increase in the use of video as well.
So we've seen video work in marketing capacities a lot, right? For many, many years, everything from Super Bowl ads to commercials to now we see it all over social media. And you know, strangely enough, I was actually sitting there thinking about having a discussion with my wife about a family reunion last week, and the term Bear Lake came out of my mouth, right? And it turns out Alexa, strangely enough, is listening to you all the time, right? So, and strangely enough, about 10 minutes later, I was on Facebook and ads for Bear Lake came up. So as creepy as that is, it's creating that all-encompassing experience. So, you know, as I mentioned, we've seen video work so well in marketing, right? But why is it becoming so critical to corporate communications and HR? Or why has it become?
Well, I think it's a matter of, in most organizations, we probably should have asked for some hands up at the beginning of this as to how many of you use video. But you find video throughout any location. Financial institutions, for one, almost every branch office is likely to have a display screen when you walk in that's giving information to the consumers, your customers. You probably have screens that are in the back of the counter that may be in break rooms or training rooms where you're looking at television. The bottom line, it's everyday life for you these days. I think that's the briefest answer.
No, for sure. So talking about that with regards to HR then, I mean, I've heard you use the term getting everyone on the same page a lot, right? And in fact, I believe you've even written books that talk about this. So what are some of the what are some of the ways you're seeing video helping getting people all on the same page?
Good question. Yeah, as it's become a strategic tool in companies, it's critical, and actually there's been a lot of conversation and discussions in the presentations the last couple days about this of engagement. But from the senior executives all the way on down to the employees, getting on the same page with communications between them and getting people engaged is proven to be extremely critical, but it's also a matter of going beyond just employees. It's a matter of extending it out to business partners and then the reach all the way to the consumers. But getting them on the same page with regards to technology is critical. The idea of how you're delivering it, what media channels does your organization use to get video to the people, whether they're on the retail floor, for you in the financial institutions, getting it to your agents or your people who are in the branch offices, retailers getting it to them at the counter. It's critical to make sure that everyone is involved and engaged, thinking towards getting the business results that are needed, because now it's a matter of meeting your business objectives. So getting everyone talking together, working together, collaborating together. Amy Schwenk used those words the other day as well. Collaboration and getting on the same page is critical for that. But also, and I think we'll talk about it a little bit, I think maybe in one of the next questions, about the accountability and roles and responsibility for everybody. So it goes all the way through to the processes that people use.
Yeah, so now that we know why it's important, what roles, based on your experience, what roles has video served in some of the scenarios you've worked in?
Well, you want me to give some examples?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Very good. So this is working with the IT organizations that I've helped. A lot of my role is to go in and help moderate or facilitate rooms full of people. So if you can imagine, I came actually out of ownership. I worked for a company that was owned by EDS, and then I went and worked for a division that was owned by AT&T. So figure this, video inside of the world of data and video inside of the world of a telecommunications company. And the account team would bring you in, and we'd have to help identify how to work with the IT organizations to get video to support the users in the organizations, which could be HR or the executives or the training organization, let's say. And we basically would start out with 40, maybe 50, 60 people in the room to try and identify what are the key things that you need. You have business requirements, business needs that you have to attain. You have to train people, you have to inform people, and it's their responsibility as a support group to provide you those services. And the interesting thing in working with them is that, well, let's put it this way. I learned it at EDS. Get all the liars in the room and talk it out at the same time. Liars, that's a little difficult term to use, but that's what they use. The point is let's discuss it and let's see how we can express what our needs are and how you can solve the issues IT organization. And the bottom line of that was that we found out that usually you get pushback on bandwidth and pricing. Costs are too high, and everybody's afraid to challenge the IT department. So everybody would always historically just accept what they would say. And I'm probably jumping on you on these questions, but my stream of consciousness says hit on these right now. So the IT department, basically, they're historically not comfortable with video. They're data guys. But as we just heard in the last session and over the last couple of days, everything's data now. It's digital. We've gone through a digital transformation. So all of what we are doing is essentially working over the same bandwidth and the same lines. And so the key thing is to get the IT guys to understand that we're in their world, and using the same bandwidth, the costs have come down, and the usability, everybody's familiar with it. So bottom line, get everybody on the same page and have them working together.
Yeah, so Can you think of a particular scenario where where maybe it went really well that way, where an IT team was able to understand the value of video and able to, work together with various departments internally?
Yeah. I may be able to give you a couple really good examples. J.C. Penney's, big retailer, I'm sure everybody's familiar with them. They've had a video network for many, many years, a satellite network, one of the best in the industry that they use for corporate information and training. And the IT department basically always said, not on my bandwidth, can't use it, and very little respect for video. But it got to the point through the digital transformation that they started realizing that the bandwidth for video is used during the day. At nighttime, it's all sitting there. It's dormant, not being used. And the video organization has been offering to them the use of the bandwidth and off times to do a lot of transferring of data information to all of the stores over time. And eventually they gave in and used it. But it came at a time where, interestingly enough, it was driven by the training organization needing a new LMS system, a new content management system to go with the increase in the use of video. Video was driving a lot of their training, and the video organization that's distributing communications explained to them that we could utilize video, let it be the lead. Don't use a data content management system or the training LMS and content management system. We're now at the high end of the spectrum with video that is a larger requirement for content and asset management. And so the training organization converted over their LMS to a video-centric LMS system. And at that time, then the data organization had to support it. They had to get on the same page with technology and the different applications, and everybody cooperated together with it. And then the IT organization realized that, yeah, they could definitely benefit by using the video bandwidth. And if I can give you
please.
Another quick interesting aspect with regards to IT, and Curtis had mentioned to me the importance of trying to help discuss and touch on things as it relates to working with the IT organization. So that's kind of why I'm going down this path. Working with the World Bank out of DC, a large global organization that works with 185 countries. They do a lot of video conferencing, a lot of technology. In their corporate headquarters is 200 meeting rooms that they use regularly that are extremely robust with audiovisual support, things like we see here, and two-way video conferencing as well. They had a situation where the IT department wanted to run technology and do the video conferencing, but they only wanted to do the hardware. They wanted the responsibility for managing it to be handled by the AV department. So you had two groups, one of which controlled the technology. The other one, IT expected these guys to do all the customer service, but they didn't want them to have any control and input into it. But interestingly enough, historically, they had done the development and installation of all the AV gear. What we did to get them on the same page was we literally wrote an RFP to the IT department, the same type of RFP that we would have written to the vendors, because these guys are a functional support group. And what it did is it kicked them in the teeth and woke them up, but by and large, it got them and their executives to work together to realize the responsibilities that each group had. So even though it was a jolt for them, the executives all the way on down supported it, and it allowed us to get a service level agreement together that helped clearly to identify roles and responsibilities and areas of accountability that each group had in this scenario. And now we've got a lot of different aspects of the organizations working together with service level agreements and RFPs that would be issued to different functional groups. So it's an interesting way of doing business.
So pursuant to what you just said, and this is going off script a little bit, who owns the overall video ownership? I mean, who owns that project? I mean, you mentioned bringing IT and everyone else together, right? But is there somebody sitting in the middle that just owns this on an ongoing basis, or is it best practice to do it other ways?
Well, every organization's different, and executives are different, and they're going to have different ways of doing things, as well as engineers or IT and comms people. But by and large, because of the digital transition that took place a number of years ago, the technology is moving more and more into the responsibility of the IT group, and the IT group controlling all the terrestrial delivery and possibly other delivery paths, as well as the storage devices, the content management devices. And then the users, you have three pockets. The users that would be maybe yourselves, executives, training, communications. You have IT and infrastructure over here. And then in the middle, ideally in an organization as it relates to video, would be the video communications people or the media people who understand how to take the content and get it with and through the infrastructure and IT people, essentially through the video ecosystem. I heard that ecosystem term used here today as well. But that's what it is. Get it to and through the people in the infrastructure side of it that can get it to all the branch offices and people in the outer locations to communicate. One thing that's really key is that, again, it's driven by content. Content is king. It's got to be stored somewhere, and it's important to get everybody on the same page to where they understand how you can have a receptacle that everyone has the ability through the various groups to input, create, and or provide content, but also receive it and view it. So the way I like to say it is make content readily available, easily accessible, to contribute it as well as to access it and view it. And again, it's to the point where you've got cameras on these phones that are better than most cameras that are in corporate studios, and in some cases better than in the TV studios. And you've got viewing screens and viewing devices that the viewing is as good as you get. So it makes everybody a content provider and everybody a content consumer.
So, and as we close up here, any big lessons or best practices that you feel like this audience could benefit from? Any big lessons you've learned along the way?
Yes, I would say some of the key things are, again, I'll use the term, get all the liars in the same room, get everyone on the same page as it relates to technology, employees, and processes. Make sure that you don't let technology drive your decisions, let your applications drive them, and then let technology be identified that can help meet those particular goals. But more important than anything is to have your target audiences, keep them in mind and what the viewing environment is. So create the content and create the systems and the processes that take your viewing audience into account. Congress did one thing right in 2005, and that is that they passed a law that required all local U.S. TV stations to migrate from analog technology to digital. And this is an interesting, fun thing to be aware of, because what that did is it took the bandwidth that was being used by the bandwidth hog analog technologies, and analog was addressed in today's presentation earlier. That was a bandwidth hog, and it went to digital that basically freed up all of that bandwidth frequency that is used for mobile distribution. So right now, you can thank the TV stations in Congress, because what it did is it drove digital technology that drove high-definition television for high quality. It drove availability of bandwidth for your data plans, so your costs went down and your capabilities went up. And now you have digital display screens everywhere. So that law in 2005 that had to be completed by 2009 essentially has made all of our lives more, for the most part, not probably everybody, enjoyable with the kind of technology and the tools that we have today, the tools that are far more robust than we've ever had before.
Perfect. All right. Well, unless there's not any other questions on the floor, we'll go ahead and move on to the next session. But please join me in giving a round of applause to Randy.
Thank you.
Thank you.